States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to the additional agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No, sir. Just need a motion.
I'll take a motion.
Move that we accept the agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's passed. All right, has everyone looked at the consent agenda? I need approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda's been approved. Okay, we'll go on into the, first thing we got is a joint public hearing with the Lee County Planning Board. Amy McNeil.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Planning Board members, and staff. Planning staff has received a rezoning application from Mr. Van Gross Sr., of Copper Ridge Development LLC as the first step of the proposed development of a new single-family home subdivision off of Farrell Road. The plan is to develop the subdivision in phases that will be served by public water, a private community septic system, and public streets. The applicant is Copper Ridge Development LLC. That's also the property owner. The request is to rezone from residential agricultural to Copper Ridge Estates Conditional Zoning District, once again for the purpose of developing a residential single-family home subdivision. This is a site plan / preliminary plat specific conditional zoning district with unique conditions that are legally binding on the land, even in the event of the transfer of ownership. The location is 3284 Farrell Road and is illustrated on your screen. The site is on the southeast side of Farrell Road between Mill Run Lane and Copper Ridge East Subdivision and Zion Church Road. The adjacent zoning to the north, south, east, and west is residential agricultural. Farrell Road is located in northern Lee County within the Deep River community. It's between U.S. Highway 1 and Ammons Farm Road, not far from the Raleigh Executive Jetport. The subject property is triangular in shape with frontage on Farrell Road. The site is comprised of 30.25 acre tract of land that is developed with a ranch-style house, a cabin, and various accessory buildings. North of the site is Copper Ridge East, a 22-lot residential single-family home subdivision that was approved in 2017. There are also two existing single-family dwellings that are not part of Copper Ridge East that are also north of the site. To the south is one 250-acre tract of land, which appears to be a combination of fields and woods that is owned and operated by Ammons Farmland LLC. To the east are two large wooded tracts of land, all exceeding 50 acres in size, one of which appears to have a house currently under construction. To the west, on the same side of Farrell Road, is one 6.8 acre tract of land developed with a single-family home. And to the west, on the opposite side of Farrell Road, are two tracts of land developed with 3 single-family homes. The existing zoning, as previously noted, is residential agricultural, which is established to provide areas for low-density single-family uses, low-intensity agricultural operations, as well as agribusiness and supportive industrial and commercial uses. There's a list of permitted uses in the RA zoning district included in your agenda for your reference. The minimum lot width is 100 feet, with a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet and a max building height of 40 feet. For your reference, an acre is 43,560 square feet, so the current minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet is just shy of an acre. The minimum building setbacks for principal structure or house are front 30 feet, rear 30 feet, and 15 feet from the sides. The Copper Ridge Estates Conditional Zoning District is the proposed zoning district. This is a standalone district with its own unique conditions, which should be designed so as to maintain the integrity and the characteristics of the surrounding community, as well as conform to the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance. Conditional zoning is a negotiated process, and as such, the Board of Commissioners and/or Planning Board may request that certain conditions be considered or altered, but the petitioner must accept the conditions. Also, the conceptual plans and conditions that are approved in conjunction with this project must comply with all the technical specifications and requirements of all governmental agencies, for example, NCDOT. The following design standards are applicable for the Copper Ridge Estates Conditional Zoning District. The minimum lot width is 100 feet, with a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet and a max building height of 40 feet. The minimum building setbacks for a principal structure or a house are front 30 feet, rear 30 feet, sides 15 feet. The dimensional standards are the same as in the residential agricultural zoning district, with the exception of the minimum lot size requirement, which is 20,000 square feet as opposed to 40,000 square feet. Specific conditions for this subdivision include the following. Land usage will be restricted to not more than 24 single-family homes. A property owners association will be created to ensure maintenance of the common areas, including the pond, trails, the community private septic system, and the repair area for the septic system. The repair areas for the community private septic system will remain wooded until such time that they may be needed to be included as part of the community private septic system area in the future. Please reference the conceptual preliminary plat, architectural elevations, and the written information provided for this project included within the agenda. This is the conceptual preliminary plat, or lot layout for the subdivision. Regarding utilities, the subject property appears to have access to public water. The subject property does not have access to public sanitary sewer, and the project associated with this rezoning request would utilize a private community septic system. This would be one large private septic system that would be designed to serve all of the lots within the subdivision. It would be owned by the Subdivision Property Owners Association, and they would be responsible for the cost and maintenance associated with the operation of the private community septic system. It must be approved by the appropriate regulatory agencies at both the state and the local level. With regard to overlay districts and area plans, the site is located within our Watershed Conservation Overlay District, specifically the Cape Fear-Lee County Watershed Protected Area. This project does appear to comply with the UDO watershed regulations. The site is located within the currently adopted Airport Overlay District for the Raleigh Executive Jetport, but it's not within the updated Airport Overlay District that staff is currently working on. Staff contacted Bob Hughes, the airport director, to make him aware of this project, and he concurred that the site is not within the updated proposed overlay and simply asked that we make the applicant aware of the location of the airport, which we have done. The subject property is located within a study area for the Deep River Small Area Plan, which is intended to serve as a guide for future growth and development in the Deep River area. This information is included within the staff report, and I'll be glad to review it with you upon your request. And finally, the current long-range plan use for Lee County, which is the 2020 land use plan, identifies this area as commercial light industrial, which designates areas appropriate for commercial and light industrial uses. This land use designation appears to be due to the proximity of the site to the airport. Because there do not appear to be commercial or light industrial uses in this area that are not associated with the airport. A public information meeting was held on November 1st with planning staff, the applicant, and 2 adjoining property owners in attendance. The main topics of conversation and/or concerns expressed were the minimum lot size going from 40,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet, basically being cut in half. All of the lots being served by one private septic system that the Property Owners Association is responsible for maintaining. The neighbors were questioning how this would work. There was a possible property line discrepancy with the neighbor across the street, given that the location of Farrell Road has shifted over time. And The neighbors questioned what will happen to the current property owner who has lived at this location for a long time. That concludes my staff report. Would you like to open the public hearing and ask questions?
You will hand it back over. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Ms. McNeil. Okay, at this time, I would like to open the joint public hearing with the Lee County Planning Board for a zoning map amendment. Okay. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the project? And if you could just state your name and your address for the record, please, Mr.
I'm Van Gross. I live in 105 Bosswood Court in Cary. My business is here, though. And we, of course, have bought this property from the Johnson family. Some of you may know Toddy Johnson owned this property. Timber has not been cut in over 50 years, and Mrs. Johnson lives there. She's 90, in good physical health, but she doesn't have good eyesight and can't hear very well. And we planned on her living there. We have an arrangement for her to live there as long as she's able to live there. So we won't do anything immediately around her dwelling there in that area, for a number of years, hopefully. Our goal here is to be able to preserve the trees. We're not going to cut the timber, except what we have to for roads and septic systems. And we believe that we can disturb the land a lot less by putting the septic fields in one place rather than having to clear every lot. Every day they've got septic systems, and you put in drain lines, you kill the trees around it because you cut the roots, and so we want to eliminate that and leave the forested area there, which will prevent runoff and do a lot of things good for the environment. So we're actually decreasing the density. We'll have less homes than we would under the existing zoning. But there'll be more open space. There's a beautiful little pond there, and and we want to preserve that land where the pond is and around the pond for common areas. And of course, we'll have some other pocket parks, and the septic fields will be maintained and mowed at least twice a year and kept, looking like a pasture or something. It won't be grown up in weeds and that sort of thing. So we're kind of excited about being able to do this, and it's a unique concept for Lee County. They've done it in some other counties, but it actually helps the health department. I don't know whether y'all know it or not, but they're kind of understaffed, and so this helps them because we've got an engineering firm that'll design all of this stuff, and of course they review it and sign off on it, approve it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Anyone else to speak in favor of the project? Okay. In favor of the project? Okay, anyone opposed? Sure. If you come up and state your name and your address for the record, please. Good afternoon.
Christine Ammons, 1973 Farrell Road, represent Ammons Farmland. Didn't get any of this information everybody else seems to have. All I got was just the first drawing of the site plan. Didn't
Thank
get
you.
anything else.
Okay.
And a notice of today's meeting. So I don't have any of the other information, but I do know that we've already got a lot of flooding out there. I'm concerned about the septic system he's talking about. Just don't have enough information on this, but I know I'm opposed to it.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate it.
Where can I get that information?
We have your name and address, so Ms. McNeil right behind you. Yeah.
I didn't get anything.
Yeah, come on up, sir. It's fine. Just state your name and address for the record. Good evening.
My name is Frederick L. Sloan, 3429 Farrell Road.
which is across the road from this proposed project. I stand in opposition of it. Since the beginning, Copper Ridge, the first one they built, I have soil erosion on my property. And I believe I'll have some more with this development. I've been at this address all my life, and my concern is the effect having on landowners' property. The issues I have were presented 3.5 years ago, when a request was made for a zone change in Copper Ridge East development directly across from my property. I have pictures here of Copper Ridge East, and also this is pictures of Ammons Farmlands, which is downstream from this property, which last week flooded terribly. But I have the pictures if you'd like to look at them.
Give them to Mr. Crumpton, he'll sort of pass them around.
Copper Ridge East,
Okay.
which was started 3.5 years ago, and these are Ammons Farmlands.
Okay, thank you. We'll pass them around.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My concern is soil erosion. If they clear the land, I've looked at the maps, if they clear the land that is proposed to be cleared, there's gonna be more soil erosion downstream from this project. On the map I got, it was proposed to have 24 homes on this site. Well, there's already 2 there. And it's my understanding from Todd Johnson, who is the son of Ms. Johnson, whom he bought the land from. They're planning to, they have 3 sites on Copper Ridge East that won't perk right now. So they're planning to pump sewage from there over to this site, which has not been mentioned at all. And this sewer system, there's not one in Lee County like it at this time. I'm just wondering, 30 years down the road, if it's not maintained, what's going to become of it? Also, if they cut the timber for these proposed sewage sites on this property, we already have a lot of noise at our home now that we didn't used to have 20 years ago. We have a gun range, an airport, and a train to go through there. So we have a lot of noise right now. And if they cut the timber there, that's just going to make more noise for us. I'm not against progress, and I'm not against this proposed project. But it seems like every time they build something, I reap the rewards of it, from soil erosion or whatever. But like I say, they're proposing 24 home sites on this land. Ms. Johnson's house is already there. There's a roundhouse over there in one of these places where the sewer system is supposed to go that hasn't been mentioned. It's not even on the map. And like I say, Mr. Johnson told me that they were planning to put 3 or 4 houses from Copper Ridge East on this project, which has not been mentioned. So that's going to be around 30 houses. But I would appreciate any consideration y'all have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And as we pass these around, when we finish, I'll have the deputy, if you don't mind, just give them back
No
to you
problem.
at your seat. Okay,
Thank you for the time.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak against the proposed project? Okay, at this time, I will call an end to the public hearing. Thank you very much. And I'll excuse our very dedicated and much appreciated planning board members. So yeah, we'll get these pictures to you, over there to you guys, okay? Because we all, just to be fair for all of us to look at them. And happy Thanksgiving. Okay, in a moment. get situated. All right, is there any public comment? Okay, all right. Any public comments? Okay, we'll go into old business, referencing page 88 in your packet. The adoption of the 2019 schedule values and present use value schedule. Mr. Brown?
You wanna take that down?
Yes.
You need this?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dalrymple, other members, other county commissioners. Today we go into our last part of the three-part process of adopting the schedule of values that are upcoming for the 2019 reappraisal. Today we ask that the schedule of values be adopted, and then tomorrow notice of advertisement will be put in the paper for 30 days for the adoption and for taxpayers to have ability to challenge or appeal those schedule of values to the North Carolina Property Tax Commission should they wish to do so. So at this time, I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Brown?
Yeah, is that process online for individuals who may wish to challenge, or what are the steps?
The taxpayer would actually need to appeal in writing to the
Right.
North Carolina Property Tax Commission
Right.
if they were going to challenge the schedule of values.
Yeah, I understand that part, but I'm asking, is that something they're supposed to automatically know, or how will it be?
The advertisement will actually give them some information.
Okay,
The North Carolina Department of Revenue is where the North Carolina Property Tax Commission is housed.
all right, so they need to read the notice.
Yes, sir. And if they have any questions, our phone number is on the notification, so they could call us
All right,
and ask questions, and we would be glad to give them information that they would need to.
I just asked, a lot of people like me get a notice, paying no attention, just start raising Cain.
Well, the notice we're speaking of is going to be a notice in the newspaper for
Same
30
difference.
days. Yes, sir.
Any more questions? Do you ever, and I'm kind of looking at Mary too, sorry, Mike, but I mean, do we ever reach out to the paper, like just to do a, quick story, if they'd be interested in doing that? Sure. Yeah, maybe.
We did 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And we went through this whole thing and actually did a lot of work with the paper.
Yeah, so I mean that,
I actually spoke with them a few months ago myself also.
okay. Oh, that's right, yeah, that's right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We got a reporter here now.
Yes, I see her now. Hello. The planning board was blocking you while ago. Okay. All right, yeah, so, just, any way we can get the message out. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor of adopting the 2019 schedule values and present use value schedule, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, request for approval of Parks and Rec Master Plan Phase 1 with modifications. Mr. Payne, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This has been somewhat of a process
Yeah,
that
that's-
we've gone through.
That's a good
But,
word.
it always is, but it's a good process
It is.
to get enough feedback so that, we can spend our money the way our folks would like for it to be spent, our folks being our public, the ones that we serve. So in your packet, you've got the recommendations. These came from the presentation and comments from the commissioners and public comments after Withers Ravenel made their presentation to this board a while back. And so I spoke with Gary Warner this morning, in fact, and let him know that we would be making this presentation tonight for phase one, based on the modifications and recommendations from this board and other feedback that we've gotten. And we'll go from there to see what we can do as far as making changes and improvements to the parks.
I think the changes, number one, based on the feedback from the board's meeting November 5th, is the splash pad at Horton Park has been taken out. So we'll be focusing on the ball field there, playground equipment, parking, and the basketball court. And at OT Sloan, the tennis courts will be redesigned for the multi-use as basketball courts as well, which we talked about. Same thing at Temple Park, making sure that there was a full basketball court there. And then at Kiwanis Children's Park, concentrating on the parking, tennis, pickleball courts, the shelter, and the restroom facilities. So pretty much just took the phase one plan that we showed and just made those modifications to meet what the commissioners wanted to do.
Let me clarify one point. I never agreed to eliminate the splash pad.
In phase
Correct.
one.
Right.
Phase one.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now
Yes, sir.
It's still,
Understood.
excuse me.
It's great.
Understood. Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
probably chose a bad word.
Yeah.
Delayed the construction of it to another phase.
We're on the same page,
That's my
Commissioner.
soft on my ears.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions or discussion for Mr. Payne? Do you have a timeline? I mean, I know we've got, but just, for the public.
Well, next we have to, once this is approved, then we'll talk with Withers and Ravenel about moving forward with construction drawings and getting construction drawings approved and then moving out to bid. So
Maybe spring?
spring, hopefully be out to bid and start construction.
Okay.
And we may be looking at trying to put in a Part F grant, a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant,
Right.
to help us make some other improvements there where we feel like it's needed the most, which project we can get the most bang for the buck out of.
Okay.
We ourselves have not filed a Part F grant in many years
It's been a while.
because we've sponsored with the city and sponsored with the town. And
The last two that we got a $250,000 grant for phase one of Tramway Road Park, and then we got a $500,000 grant for phase two out there at the park. And those are the last two that we've gotten. It's been a
10
little while.
years, yeah. 8?
Not quite 10, yeah, 7 or 8 years.
All right. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, the motion is for approval of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Phase 1 recommendations with the modifications presented by Mr. Payne tonight. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
This is
you.
gonna be great.
Yep, thank you.
Looking forward to getting started. And it is a good process. Agreed. Okay, item C under old business, consideration of a memorandum of understanding for placing a mural honoring Dr. Mary Margaret McLeod on a county-owned building. Ms. Parrish.
Yes. If you recall, at the one of the board meetings, it was the Suzanne Reeves Literary Club had come with Eddie Winstead, and then who's also been involved, I've spoken with a couple of times, is Liz Whitmore with the planning department as well, in reference of putting the mural here at the government center. After the meeting, the board had asked me to look into adopting a policy for situations such as this. I did contact the city of Durham, who has a public arts department as part of their business. I actually think they do it as part of, they even fund it each year with their CIP. So that situation is a little bit different because they do that. They fund it and they do all of their art on public property and then encourage private individuals to participate. So what we looked at doing instead was, considering this probably won't come up very often, entering into an MOU with the Suzanne Reeves Literary Club in reference to this one specific project and spelling out some different responsibilities of each group. Ultimately, after speaking with Liz Whitmore, with the city in downtown St. Fred Inc., is that the club will be working with the City of St. Fred's Appearance Commission and a public arts subcommittee in terms of once they have the money and they have the approval from the county, they'll then submit RFIs to get some feedback in terms of what will actually be placed on the building. The county will have the ultimate say as to what the design will be and where it will be located. So they'll bring it back here since we're the property owners of the, where they want to place it. So they'll come back here for the commissioners to have final approval. So if you have any questions, I did contact Mr. Winstead, and I told him that we were going to put an MOU on the agenda for this evening, and just told him I'd update them if the board had any questions, or if he has any questions coming back, I will bring those to the board. So.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a motion that we approve a memorandum of understanding for placing a mural honoring Dr. Margaret McLeod on the county-owned building.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion?
I've got a couple of questions. So maybe I didn't hear the part about our policy. Do we already have one, or what are we gonna do?
We don't have an overarching policy, so we figured we would take these on a case-by-case basis.
All right,
And that way, if it was hard to kind of determine what would be in a policy, considering this isn't something that we would do often, unlike the city of Durham, who does it regularly as part of their business. They have a county department, I guess.
We had a lot of discussions, mainly last week, and, you know, we felt like maybe if we had a policy, we may get into a situation, you know, where we have a lot of people applying to do things like this. Maybe with the memorandum of understanding, like she said, we would take it on a case-by-case basis, you know, because we don't have that many county-owned buildings, you know, when you compare it to Durham or Raleigh or, you know, some of the larger cities that have public art projects. You know, that was just our direction that we kind of went in rather than.
I'm not in opposition.
No, I know.
I'm trying to think through it. You know, this country is going through a monument crisis
Right.
everywhere you look.
Right.
It's different than tearing a statue down than tearing a building wall down.
True.
So you know, you need to take all those things into consideration. I guess the part that I'm listening for is, in this particular case, you're suggesting that we use a MOU, and that's initiated by whom and where? Do they come to the county? If I wanted to get one for my doctor, of course, I don't know who he was, so I'd have a hard time. But where would I start if I wanted to do the same thing on a county building?
I think it would ultimately, I mean, it would start the same way as this did, coming to the board of commissioners first to determine even on the front end if it's something.
It actually came to
interested
me first.
I was gonna say,
Came to me
it's been
first, and I
discussed
just
before it
said,
got here.
I don't have the authority
Okay.
to allow someone to paint on our walls, so
All right,
it came to the board.
all
I
right.
think part of the problem with the policy is we didn't really know what to put in the policy, because
I agree.
it may have given someone the feeling, well, you know, if they met the policy, then they could come paint anything we had.
Right.
And I was a little concerned about that it would open up, you know, so we kind of just decided this was a once in a blue moon kind of request. It was kind of same like when we went through a couple of years ago when we went through the naming of buildings, you know,
Right.
whether we would name buildings or not, and we decided not to. Because, you know, when we looked at the policy, that would kind of give people the feeling, well, you know, we're going to name all our buildings and stuff. So it was just one of those things we didn't feel comfortable with in developing the policy, but we felt like this was a good proposal and address it with the MOU.
Okay. But again, my point is a person not knowing, we don't have a policy, so they would start by appealing to the manager's office.
And then
Is,
he would bring it before the board.
And the board could dip it in the bud to start with if it doesn't meet certain criteria, I would think.
Or it wasn't appropriate where it was
Wasn't
gonna go.
appropriate,
Like I
yeah.
wouldn't try to
Right.
put one out on the McSwain building.
Yeah.
I just
Well, and you also have,
don't really have enough walls out
you
there
know,
to do anything.
it may be something other than a mural too. You know, it could be some other form of public art that might be, not be appropriate. So the case by case, you know, that's the one thing that Ms. Parrish and I, we were talking, and she was looking at different city and county policies and how they were doing things, and I was doing the same thing. And, you know, a couple of the policies that I saw, they were just too open-ended. There were too many loopholes that I felt would put us in a bad position with some, you know, certain requests. And you know, just that case-by-case basis, I felt like was safer for us. You know, especially not having, you know, Durham has their own art department
Sure.
within the city, so.
yeah, they can afford it. But again, my thing is, make it clear across the board for everyone, here's how you initiate it.
Right.
If you're interested, then this is
Right.
where you start. That's all I'm looking for out of this.
And maybe, I mean, would it, would you think, you know, maybe a good idea would be like through our social media, on the
Sure.
county websites and that kind of thing? Once this gets started, you know, once we have the agreement with the Suzanne Reeves Literary Society, to just say, you know, this is the very first endeavor that the county's done.
That's a good response.
And then, you know, this is how, you know, if you're interested in doing this, this is how it's done.
That's correct.
Okay, okay.
That satisfies me. Thank you.
Okay. Mhm. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. It'll be interesting to see the mock-ups they send us. Get into the art business now. Okay, the next item is item D under old business, consideration of approval of future land use plan. Mr. Downey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. On page 104 of your packet, you have a resolution for consideration of the adoption of our land use plan. You may recall, I'm not going to go into great detail on this, we presented this item to you at public hearing back in September and in October. I came to you at your last meeting and presented the planning board recommendation, which was in favor. I believe Mr. Crumpton spoke to you about a meeting he attended with the airport, and there was some public, and there was a little confusion over the land use plan versus the airport overlay. And as a result of that, it was recommended to the board that the plan not be adopted, or the resolution not be adopted that night, and be put on your agenda for tonight. And I will update you, we are working with the airport staff on the overlay, and that is a separate issue, so.
Okay.
And I'll pause there if there's any additional questions.
Madam Chairman, we did change this resolution to address the concerns that were brought up by the board at the last meeting, and decided to address those concerns in the resolution instead of trying to change the plan, since it's already been approved by the city of Sanford and Broadway. And so the big thing here is that, that this plan will be reviewed in January of every year with the planning
The last
staff.
year, right.
Yes.
Right.
So that was the big issue, that we would, go through it and make sure that it was up to date, and this would be a document we would use continually.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor of the approval of the future land use plan for Lee County, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much for all your hard work, Marshall. All right, request for relief of late list penalties from Wyeth Holdings. Mary Yao?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to excuse myself at this time,
Okay.
just to be safe, not raise any questions.
Yeah.
Make a motion and take a
Is
vote.
there a motion to,
So moved.
So moved.
okay, all those in favor of excusing Commissioner Sloan in this matter, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll come get you. Don't go too far.
No good sleep.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do have two issues before you this evening to request. The first one is from Wythe Holdings Corporation. This request is in relation to business personal property, an audit that our tax office completed on their property. The audit period that was covered in was years 2013 through 2017. We began this audit in 2016. It takes a couple of years for us to do an audit with Wythe. But we did complete the August and April, and the results of the audit indicated that they had underreported for all the years in question. As you know, per statute, the tax assessor must apply a 10% penalty per year for each listing period that passes that the property was not reported. I have a breakdown for you in your agenda packet there of all the taxes by year, so you can see the taxes and the penalty breakdown.
So 109.
So Wyeth Holdings is asking for consideration of abatement of the late listing penalty in the amount of $108,903.98 under North Carolina General Statute 105-312K. Historically, they have filed their annual listing on time. Of course, they didn't file this property timely because it was not reported. And they have paid their tax bills on time as well.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Young?
Did we have to put a lot of man hours into figuring this amount that they owe?
The audit, well, our audit firm, TMA, that we contract with to do our larger audits, did this audit. But yes, like I said, we started this audit in 2016, and we completed it in April of 2018.
Is this just stuff they didn't have listed? Is that what the
Yes, sir. The assets that it really came down to were they had a lot of assets in their real estate account on their books that were actually personal property. So we had to go through that list. We had to sit down with them one day and go through that complete list, and there were items that they had booked as in their real estate account, and they were actually personal property.
Okay.
So this isn't like, some of the other cases that the board has dealt with where the deadline is January 31st or extended to March 15th. And that the policy that was developed really covered those late listings, not the ones where there was a discovery this far back. So we really haven't dealt with a case like this before. That's why based on the issues not only in this case but the second case, since they were discoveries, they didn't meet the policy, so we didn't recommend any abatement of the penalty.
Okay. Any more questions?
Was this an oversight on their part or something that their audit people should have picked up, or do you have any idea?
Again, they had assets booked on their records in their real estate account that were actually personal property items.
Does Wyeth have anyone here to speak to this, or?
We did notify Wythe about the meeting and also the time change, but I don't believe they were going to send anybody. They didn't indicate that they would make the trip to come.
Just not to put you on the spot, but I mean, do you have other, without naming anything, but just, can you give us an idea that if you have any other businesses, that
Have filed late?
or have missed,
Oh, yeah.
Discoveries, we have discoveries quite a bit.
well, I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at. I mean, this happens from time to time, and typically they just pay the penalty and the late fee because they missed it, correct?
The majority of people do. You have, we usually have one or two, three taxpayers a year that want to come before you and ask for abatement.
Right.
But we have very many who acknowledge and just
That was the point thank you. That was what I was getting at. Okay.
I just wonder, is this a first-time assessment of a penalty against Wyatt?
No, sir, we actually had audits on them, we did an audit on them in 1999, 2010, 1999 and 2010, and we had discoveries at that time too.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Is that 100,000, does that include the tax owed?
No,
or
sir,
just the penalty?
that's just the penalty.
Penalty.
The tax bill, the total, let's just say,
It's a
I got
big
it.
discovery.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's in there.
I think it was 320.
I'm thinking 379,000.
That's right,
Yeah,
379.
269.52 is the total tax bill.
This goes back for several years.
Yes, it goes
Right.
back to, it's for years
5
2013 through 2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing about it, if you forego life, it almost is like, if you're gonna do it for them, you gotta do it for B&B
Every
Farm.
tax-paying citizen that misses
I mean,
something.
it's almost like setting a little
It
precedent.
depends on the circumstances, I think. Some of it's flagrant, and I think that's one thing, but if it's an accident or oversight, then that's another thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. In this case, it doesn't sound like this was an oversight. I don't know. That's the reason I was hoping to have someone here that speaks for
I
me.
mean, do we abate all or nothing, or?
We
or a
we can
portion,
reduce
or-
it, I think, can't we? With this board out of,
Well, you have to look at your policy, don't you?
yeah.
Right.
What's,
Well,
what's
there's
the law?
not a policy.
There's not a policy for
Yeah.
this specific
The-
Right.
discovery.
The statute says that you can compromise it.
Compromise.
It doesn't really give you guidelines for
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Is this one that they would be personally liable if they found it?
Yes,
Okay.
you still
Well,
follow
I would say.
They would
this.
still fall under the personal liability.
Oh, sure, I saw a copy of our policy, and
It's on page
It is.
116.
It's
Yeah.
not policy though, it's guidelines.
Mhm.
116.
okay, guidelines. Everybody happy?
Jump on those guys.
I tell you,
Sorry.
I didn't trust bad words.
I'm having problems with my words tonight. Words have meaning. You gotta be careful.
We're all learning.
We're all wired for 6 o'clock, not 4 o'clock. That's
That's right. Oh, my.
So based on that set of guidelines, what would your recommendation be?
My recommendation?
Oh, yeah.
It's my responsibility to charge the penalty to anybody who files late.
That's what I wanna
So
hear.
my recommendation is,
To deny the
the
request.
penalty's there for a purpose. It's in the statute to protect the county
All right.
from revenue they would have lost, you know, that they did not get because it was not filed.
All right.
I make a motion that we deny the request from Pfizer.
That's a reasonable response to a good corporate citizen.
So the motion is to deny the request of relief of the late penalty and require payment. Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, okay, thank you. All right, and then, the next one, request for relief of waitlist penalty from B&B Farms. And that's on 124 of your agenda. Kinda odd to have similar things in the same month.
Well, we, usually what we do is we just we try to do these at the same time, just, so they have till the end of the year to get them in, so we can wait towards the end. This request is from B&B Farms LLC. Again, this is, late list penalty that they are requesting abatement, of the penalty on an audit situation as well. The audit covered years 2012 through 2018 in this case. So some history on this, and we did the audit on B&B Farms, and the results indicated that the business was underreported, and of course, penalty was applied according to statute in the amount of $1,586.21. Historically, B&B Farms has not filed a listing on time in the past 5 years. In 2014, the listing was received on May 1st, 2014, and for years 2015, 16, 17, and 18, the taxpayer did not report, but rather the tax department made an assessment on the business based on the best information available. And as you know, personal property is required to be filed annually. Payment history for B&B Farms indicated that they had paid late in years 2013, 2016, and 2017. 2014 and 2015 were paid on time. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Is anyone here on their behalf?
No, sir.
Move to reject.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to deny the request for relief of late list penalty from B&B Farms. Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mary. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Okay, item C, consideration of an offer to purchase property located at 2055 Long Point Trail, PIN number 967-14-108400. Ms. Parrish?
I was gonna pull the property up so you can.
Thank you, Lisa and Michael. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Thanksgiving.
It's obvious, it's.
Careful.
Not like that. It's this parcel right here. So this is another foreclosed property that the county owns. This parcel is located in Carolina Trace. After checking with the tax department, what's owed on the property is $3,385.23. That includes the taxes, attorney fees, and then homeowner association fees on the parcel. The current tax value is $30,000. The gentleman named Wayne Langston, on behalf of Coast to Coast Group, has submitted an offer of $750 and has paid the necessary advertising costs as well, and the 5% deposit. So he's actually contacted me in reference of making many offers on some of this foreclosure property, surplus property we own. And so I told him I would just be kind of bringing them to the board as I could get them ready. It takes some time to do that. And I also explained to him that, normally the board likes to at least get what's owed on the property, but they can submit whatever offer they'd like, and this is what he has submitted. I told him that, like on all surplus property, the board looks at it on a case by case to see the parcel, and also if the board wants to accept it, we can deem it surplus, accept the offer, and then go through the upset bid advertising period.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion from Ms. Parrish? All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept Mr. Langston's offer for the property and declare it surplus, and then begin the upset bid process. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Ms. Parrish.
You're welcome. And if I may as well, through this process, I can do it through a sealed bid. So since you've accepted the original offer, instead of bringing back any subsequent offers, if the board is okay, then staff, we can just continue to accept them and advertise them as we move forward. And then when the last qualifying bid is accepted, then bring it back to the board. It will kind of help speed up the process a little bit, because otherwise we have to wait for a board meeting.
Do you need to add that, or?
You
I'm
need a
good.
motion for that,
Yeah, you
Whitney?
can, just,
Okay.
You want to cover it in the motion that we already have?
sure.
Just include that part of the statement.
Okay, is everybody okay to amend that former motion to include directing staff to continue the bid process until the final bid and then report back to the board? Is that good enough? Will that work?
That should be
Okay.
good, yeah.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, financial statement presentation, Ms. Mentor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm gonna switch this over for just a second. Good afternoon. I am happy to say that we did receive approval from the state of our financial statements on Friday. And so you do have a copy of those along with the PowerPoint that I'll be presenting in front of you. So we are happy to have another year behind us. And to get things started, Mr. Thompson, Alan Thompson, who is a CPA and partner with Thompson, Price, Scott and Adams, will come and speak to you briefly about our audit opinion, and then I will move into the presentation of the numbers. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'll be brief. Inside the audit report that's at your desk there's a small handout. I'm going to run through this because I'm required to. And but first let me say, obviously you did receive an unmodified report, which is a quote-unquote clean report. And also commend you as a board, finance staff, excellent work. Easiest audit we do because the records are in great shape. Finance officer does an awesome job putting together the financial statements. We wish all our counties were like this.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you.
It is true. I'm not embellishing it whatsoever. People want to work on your audit. We got some that folks run from. So there were no significant audit findings there on page 1. On page 2, no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. No uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. Management did provide us a representation letter dated October 31st. Unaware that management consulted with any outside auditors, etc. No findings, etc. No really other matters. It's talking about OPEB, etc., which I'm sure Lisa's going to explain to you, which I'll keep my own opinion to all of that, which I'm not a fan of a lot of it. I'm happy to answer questions that you may have of your audit anytime, not just on a day like today, but our numbers on the letterhead. If you ever say, hey, I just want to talk to you about the audit, etc., you're always welcome to call me. If I'm not in the office, tell them, give me my cell number. They'll track me down. I'll be delighted to talk to you. And we appreciate the opportunity to do your audit.
Thank you very much. Any questions or anything? No? Okay. Thank you for being here, and happy
Yes, ma'am.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Take care. All righty.
We'll move on into the numbers. Today I want to talk to you about our general fund activity. We'll go over the fund balance position, which is always a high priority. Our debt position, I'll give you an update on all of our capital projects as of June 30th, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions, which I'll also answer any questions you may have as I'm going through this. For the year ending June 30th, 2018, our revenues and transfers in totaled $69,472,196. That was a very slight decrease from the previous year of 0.33% or $233,000. This just shows you the breakdown of our revenues. Obviously, ad valorem taxes make up the largest percentage of our revenues from year to year. This past year it was 62%. Sales tax makes up 20%, and then you'll see that restricted intergovernmental monies make up the 11%. Those are funds from social services and health department. And you've seen that number decrease over the last couple of years just due to the way the state's funding some things now. They're doing some more direct payments of daycare instead of it passing through us.
There's a comparison of year on year to revenues, and you will see that in most cases, our revenues went up this year versus the previous year. We did see a drop, like I said, in intergovernmental. That's the change in the daycare funding. Saw a slight decrease in permits and fees, and a slight decrease in miscellaneous. I am happy to say that you see an increase in investment earnings. Property taxes revenues totaled $42,348,656, which was an increase of 1.7% over the fiscal year 2017. So the tax department is to be commended for their continued diligence in collections. Assessed value was $5,292,288,759, which was an increase of 2.12% from the previous year, which helped with the revenue side. And you can see the breakdown there between real, personal, and utilities. I know several of you like to see the breakdown between the residential and commercial base on the real property. You can see there it looks like maybe the real has picked up, the real commercial has picked up a little bit more than the residential from the previous year. As far as property taxes collected go, we collected 99.21% of the levy. 99.13 if you exclude motor vehicles, and motor vehicles show 100% collected. As I explained to you before, now the state collects it. There are some that are uncollected for where they do some limited plates, but we don't have to show that. So, okay. So our collections exceeded our budget by $246,795 for the fiscal year of 2018. Sales tax revenue, it's a major growing revenue for us. Sales tax revenues totaled $13,889,956, which is a $628,791 increase, or 4.74% over fiscal year 2017. So we are very happy to be seeing those numbers, and it helps fund our debt and other things for us.
Shop local, shop local.
Yes, it pays off.
It does, yes.
General fund expenditures, we'll move on to those. Our expenditures and transfers out totaled $68,739,503, which is an increase of $945,470, or 1.39% from fiscal year 2017. Remember, we had some increased debt service, and we're also still transferring some money out to our capital reserve fund for future debt service. Human services and education account for the majority of the county's expenditures. Here you'll see the different expenditure category groupings and what we have done for the last 5 years. And again, you'll see a growth in general government and a rather large growth in education and then debt service over the previous year. For Lee County Board of Education, they accounted for 37.7% of our expenditures, and that's including their portion of the debt service. So current expense was $17,512,000. Capital outlay to them was $1,347,506. Debt service was $6,623,746 for a total outlay to the Board of Education, including debt of $25,483,000 and some change. And here you can see the breakdown for the last 5 years in each category for there. You see a decrease in capital outlay, and that's because this past year they did not use any of the lottery funds. They have been letting those build up and asked to use some of them this year. Okay, so that kind of plays into that, even though it's an in and out as far as the revenue and expenditure goes. CCCC. This was an interesting year for CCCC. Current expense totaled $2.7 million, almost $2.8 million. Civic Center appropriation was $49,000. We had the special appropriation of $115,000 for the pod move out to from the Wicker School property out to the industrial park. We did $290,000 in capital outlay, and then the service was $2.6 million for them, and that was a large increase. But that was the new debt for the new buildings. So their total expenditures were $5.8 million, and that accounted for a 71.18% increase over the previous fiscal year. And but they accounted for 8.5% of the general fund expenditures. So bottom line, you see our total revenues there and our total expenditures, which netted out to an increase in our fund balance of $732,693 for the fiscal year 2018. I will speak to you briefly about what Mr. Thompson mentioned about OPEB. If you look at this number, it correlates to one financial statement in the balance sheet and the schedule of revenue and expenditures in the financial statements. But there's also a statement of net position, which is the first statement you see if you start going through there. It shows a very different number. Several years ago, GASB 34 was implemented, which now requires us to book our debt on the statement of net position. In addition to that, we have to book liabilities for our OPEB, which are other post-employment benefits. So there is a much different number because we incur debt for the schools, but we don't get to book the assets. They book the schools on the buildings and all on their books. So our numbers end up being skewed. Mr. Compton and I have talked about incorporating a much deeper discussion for you at your planning retreat to explain all this better. So, but just so you know, that's what the big part of the difference is. It's our debt, and then it's our liabilities for our OPEB and pensions and things like that. Okay. Fund balance history. You are used to seeing this schedule. It shows you the available fund, our total fund balance in the dark blue, and our fund balance available. And you can see we've been consistently growing. And this also, there's a big spike in our goal and stuff, and that's because you recently adjusted your policy. So you now have a floor of 16% and a target of 24%. And you can see we are above the 8% that the state requires, above your floor. And that we are still below the 24% target that you have. Okay. But at the end of June 30th, we were at 21.34%. So our total available fund balance as of June 30th was $14,670,340, which was an increase of $566,080. Again, that's a different number than the total of change in fund balance because not all of it's available under the state's calculations. So as a percentage of our 18 expenditures, we're at 21.34%. If you take that number and look at our budgeted expenditures, and that should say for fiscal year 2019, I apologize, it's 19.52%. The statewide average for our population group at 6/30/2017 was 33.44. So again, we're still, well behind our population group, but again, we're in with a lot of counties along the coast that keep a much higher fund balance because of storms and things like that. Which just about every county needs to be looking at that based on the storms we've had here lately. As far as our debt position goes, outstanding debt at June 30th, 2018 totaled $93,960,357. That was a total of, between our certificates of participation and our limit obligation bonds that we just issued, total $58,822,000. We had other installment notes at $13,288,357, and then the general obligation bonds total $21,850,000. To break that down between general, the Board of Education, and CCCC, you can see that obviously the largest portion is Lee County Board of Education, with CCCC having picked up a big part of that pie in the past year. Outstanding debt, we have a couple of ratios in the financial policy that you have set. One is that our outstanding debt will not exceed 2% of our total assessed value. We are currently at 1.78%. The state's limit is 8%. So your policy is very conservative, and you can see that we've stayed under that even with the most recent debt issues. Actual debt service payments, your policy is they will not exceed 15% of our general fund expenditures. For June 30th, 2018, you were at 13.64%. So when we did some of the preliminary work, we showed that we might get very, very close to the 15 or even exceed it. The way the expenditures came in, we've managed to stay under our policy. Okay, single audit and grants. This is almost like a separate audit that's done by state requirements. We managed or processed the eligibility for over $98 million worth of grant funds. A lot of those no longer run through our coffers because of the way they're done, but we do still manage the eligibility requirements. DSS managed $94,197,361. Of that, $4,456,000 did come through our financial statements in our books. Programs that were audited this year were Medicaid, the Rural Infrastructure Grant, the School Nurse Funding Initiative, and some in-home services funds that are processed by Senior Services. There were some different programs that had to be picked up this year because less money is running through us. So different programs had to be picked up and audited to meet the state's requirements. We did have one finding this year. So I would say even with that one finding, our departments are to be commended for what all they process and do. They do an outstanding job. However, we did have one finding this year. The auditors reviewed 96 adult Medicaid files. They came across one file where the participant was under SSI. They were dropped from SSI, and the notification came through, but the participant was not reviewed in a timely manner. The cost that was found was in the time frame that could still be allowable. So what ended up being reported was a zero question cost. However, DSS has taken actions and implemented procedures to try to make sure this did not happen again. And if you have any additional questions, Angelina is here and we'll be glad to answer those and explain it better if you have any more questions. But they are still to be highly commended for the amount of processing and all that they do. To have had only had one finding, and I think it's the first finding that I can remember us having in, I want to say almost since I've been here, but I'm sure there's been at least one other one since I've been here, but very few. Capital projects, Sandley Park Nature Center. We've all but wrapped that one up, but there's still $25,973 still sitting there. We are holding on to that, hopefully for some bird enclosures that we're trying to get done, if we can get a bid in that's reasonable. As far as the CCCC projects, as of June 30th, the Health Science Center still had $1.2 million remaining. Of course, you did allocate additional, release some more of those funds to them based on investment earnings and stuff. The Vet Tech building still had $1.1 million left as of June 30th. The Civic Center was at $1.675. The main campus and ESTC project, which the ESTC is pretty much wrapped up, is $1,445,000 left. And then the elementary school, of course, it's still in the early stages. So at June 30th, there was $23,730,000 left to be spent. The courthouse complex and obviously the park improvements are still very much in infancy stage and waiting for us to go out to bid. So there's $3 million left in the courthouse complex and just over $2 million left in the park improvements. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have at this time on that, if there's any. Any questions?
I've got a quick question, Lisa, just going back over these numbers. The funds remaining for the CCCC bond projects, and I'm kind of looking at you and John both, did we ever figure out a way to sort of finagle to use some of that for the road?
Well, they could, but, and they're gonna extend it from the other side a little bit, but there's not enough to do the whole road. So, and they're still lobbying to have the road done.
Right. Okay. I've just, every $10,000 here and there, maybe putting towards something, and okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your hard work, as always. We greatly appreciate it. Okay, and then move right on into the financial report.
Yes. So in front of you, you have the numbers, the financial report for the month of October 2018. I'm happy to say that, we are doing fairly well so far. Our property tax revenues are just slightly behind last year, and again, it's just a timing issue at this point. We may get a real estate company to pay early, or a bank to pay earlier 1 month than they do the next year. So we'll kind of keep an eye on it until January and see how we are after January. As far as expenditures go, our target's 33.33%. As I've explained to you, now that we have to include encumbrances on here, it skews the numbers because some of those encumbrances will be for the entire year. However, we know that many of the departments are over simply due to the HSA deposits, the annual premiums on workman's comp, and the property and liability, and the annual dues and maintenance agreements. I will tell you that I'm going to try next month to maybe have 2 used percentage columns, one with encumbrance and one without, if I can fit it on here and still be viewable, just because it helps me to spot them too. So I figured it will help y'all. As far as sales tax goes, you have the reports on sales tax through the month of August, and you can see that we're just still doing fairly well. As far as growth goes, we're at 5.91% just for our portion, and overall countywide we're at a 5.15% growth. So right now we're ahead of where we finished last year as far as growth percentage goes. Right. We're hoping to see that continue and us have a wonderful fall and December Christmas sales. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if there are any. If not, thank y'all very much. Any questions?
Thank you very much,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
It's good news.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, county manager's report.
Yes, ma'am. One of the other projects that you saw up there is the courthouse renovations, and I did get some draft plans from Mosley today. So I'm going through those now, and hopefully we'll be sharing that with the board over the next couple weeks, and those that would be impacted. So we had a meeting a couple weeks ago with a few folks and went through some of those draft plans and made significant changes. And if they don't like it now, they're never going to like it. So anyway, we'll see how those go, but need to get moving on that and make some tough decisions on that. At the October meeting, the commissioners, we discussed the Boys and Girls Club closing of the Church Street location, and asked for a meeting, and Chairman Dalrymple and Commissioner Reeves and myself did get a meeting with them to discuss how things are progressing with the club and why they closed the Church Street location. And I'll let the commissioners add anything if they'd like to add anything to it.
Commissioner Reeves?
I'd like to request that the manager send forth a document restating some of the things we recommended and find out what progress has been made on those items before we release any more funds.
So just keep the motion to hold the funds until we get some feedback from our meeting.
Well, I did some follow-up over the weekend, specifically with the requests or suggestion we made in terms of talking with one of the city council members. There'd been no progress in that regard. And it's tied to the other recommendation we made.
Right.
So I'd just like to know what's going on. If you're not going to do it, say you're not going to do it and be done with it. But I think we're owed an explanation.
We had a good meeting. Talked a lot about communication, because I think it took this, I know it took our board by surprise to find out, just literally overnight that they were closing that, and it affected 75 children and their families. So we did have a good meeting, fairly long, but Commissioner Reeves gave them some suggestions to reach out to folks, and I was under the impression that they were going to do that fairly quickly, and they were amenable to opening the Church Street location back up, sooner rather than later. And they're also in some conversations with the school once WB Wicker's completed, to use part of that facility after school. So just an update, but it does bother me that they haven't worked on it very much, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of trying to find a resolution for as many of those kids as we possibly
Absolutely.
can, as quickly as we can.
Absolutely.
I think they can do a lot better in terms of trying to get the ball rolling than several days with
Right.
no contact that I'm aware of, and I spoke with the person myself.
Any more discussion or comments on that? You know, we'll just keep you updated as much as we can. You know, as I said in the meeting, you know, my main priority is hoping to reinstate that service for those children. I think everybody up here agrees. The Boys and Girls Club does a phenomenal job. You know, it is definitely one of the greatest things we've got in Lee County for our kids. You know, from an education standpoint, you know, keeping them out of trouble. They get exposed to different things. You know, they have people come in, whether it's art or sports or, you know, music. They do a great job. So I think our conversation we shared with them, you know, we were discouraged, you know, that they went from serving 400 kids to 325. You know, and didn't reach out to our board or the city. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated. Anything else, Mr. Crumpton?
Yes, ma'am, I was, this is not in my report, but I need to let the board know I was contacted by the superintendent, who was deeply concerned last week about the condition of the Southern Lee football field. And, you know, we had encouraged the semi-pro soccer team to talk with the schools about their facilities, and I believe the schools felt like there was some pressure coming from us that they should help this person out. And so now I believe we're going to get a bill to help them fix that field.
Oh, based on the play from...
Based on the amount of play. And the field was torn up pretty badly. Mr. Seagroves has left, and but he and some other parents did yeoman work so they could play that game Saturday night.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I thought that game was played at another location.
Oh, did it get moved?
It got played at Lee County from what the thing.
Oh, it got played at Lee County.
Oh, my goodness.
So I didn't hear that. I was not here this weekend. But anyway, so.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yes, ma'am. So it's one of the things that we had talked about with, you know, getting into the business of rental of fields, is that the rent should pay for the maintenance of the fields.
Yes. Okay.
And so keep that in the back of your mind. You know, when we passed our policy, you know, covering the fees when folks use our fields, and then we go out and fix those fields, we have a fee in there that is supposed to help us do that. So
That's one of those sections in our policy that needs to be clearly highlighted. Because even when this request was made, I said there's no reason for us not to expect the school to contact us about their field. I mean, that just stands to reason. So any individual or private entity making this kind of request from both boards needs to expect to chip in.
Yes. Does anybody know what the ticket price is for their games? For the professional soccer
I think
team?
it's $6.
$6.
I hadn't been, but I think
No.
that's what I heard.
I was just curious.
Plus the concession
Right.
stand.
Right. Okay. Okay,
that's all I have.
that's it? Okay. All righty. We're almost there. Okay, commissioners' comments? Commissioner Dodson?
I'd just like to, once again, just say thank you for all the staff. I think you do a wonderful job. I think you go above and beyond.
Thank you. On behalf of all the staff, I will say thank you for the compliment.
I'd just like for all of us to keep in mind, the folks out in California with the wildfires. I know that's an ordeal out there. There's a big football game on tonight, and I'm off all week, and I'm deer hunting. Don't contact me unless you got some property you want me to come and hunt.
Okay.
My time, yeah. Well, this may be my last meeting, I'm not sure. But I'd just like to say I've enjoyed working with this board, and the staff has done a wonderful job. Of course, this, as I've served 8 years, and the first 4 years, the same thing. I mean, we just got a great staff here in Woody County, and I hope folks appreciate it. But, I'll see you down the road.
Yep. Okay.
So, I'm unfortunately in the same boat as Doc, but I also would like to thank the staff. I'd like to thank the citizens for giving me the opportunity to serve the last 4 years. I'm very proud of what this board has done in the last 4 years, and the management and the staff in this county. Even though I may have lost the election, I can look around and see the positive change, and you can look at the numbers and the growth in this county. And the one thing that I would like to ask in leaving is that we do a better job somehow of educating the public of what the changes are. Because when I ran in 2014, I ran saying there were no new jobs created. There's over $500 million in property tax base gain, 2,200 new jobs. And so I can leave with my head held high and thank all of y'all for the work and the collaboration with the Board of Education, with the city, the town of Broadway. Everybody, for the first time in years, did what was best for this county and for the citizens of Lee County. And I don't think all the public realizes that. But I thank y'all for what y'all have done and for the difference that we've made. And so I plan to see you again, just so you know.
Tim Sloan, 2020.
That's it.
I'm with you, my man.
I might not win, but I'm going to try.
Mr. Reeves?
I really want to thank you two guys for your service and your friendship and your support. It's meant a lot. One of the things I regret that didn't come out is, for example, tonight when we heard the audit report and our finance officer go through the report. It's amazing to me how 3 or 4 people in this county can come in and condemn how poorly we're doing, but all the stats, all the reports, all the audits, all the accolades that other counties wish for, we receive. So sometimes the public just does not get it right. It just happens that way. It's unfortunate. But again, thank you for your service. I look forward to supporting you in 2020. Thank you, sir.
Well, in the season of Thanksgiving, I definitely am thankful for our staff. They make my job a lot easier and hold my hand and help me a lot. And I'm very, very thankful for this board. I think we knock heads sometimes, and contrary to what people think, we do disagree and see things differently sometimes. But we've had good discussion, and again, as Commissioner Sloan said, the last 4 years have been amazing, and that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of a lot of hard work by the people sitting up here and our staff, and good partnerships with the city and the town and our college and Board of Education and our economic development group. We have had a really outstanding team the last 4 years, And I consider Commissioner Odom and Commissioner Sloan very important parts of that team. And definitely drivers in moving the county forward. So I had to take a little time off back in 2010 because the voters decided I needed a little time off, and I came back in 2012. So as I've told both of you, I think that's a good plan based on things, but who knows? We've got a few days and we'll see. But I do appreciate your service and your friendship and your support. And the county is better, much better for your service. And I appreciate it. Okay. At this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
One more thing.
Okay, sure.
I also had the privilege of helping hire Jennifer and Whitney, so I'm very proud of that as well. 'Cause the transition has been very, very smooth, and
Yes.
they're doing a great job. So.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I was
You
proud
can
of
take that down as one of your best accomplishments.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, that's one of my proudest moments, is being involved in that. Yes, it was.
Absolutely.
Okay, no increases.
Well, hey, and we've got Jamie back there who finally is communicating out to the public. And my younger, my 16 through 29-year-old children are finding out what's happening in the county because, they tweet and Instagram and stuff. So,
I was gonna say, you may not see me sitting up here again, but I will definitely be involved in who is sitting up here again. I can tell you that.
good to hear. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you
Happy
very much.
Thanksgiving.
Stay safe.